welcome into a brand new episode of WSI TV. Enjoy the show.
Hi guys, welcome back to WSI TV. Today we're going to be doing another episode in Former Spotlight. I am Taylor Klinkbiel and I am joined by Lea Warren.
Hi, how you guys doing today? So, we are going to jump right into it today with Billionaire or Bust. Before that, as always, we remind you to go on to WSITV.com to read our free daily newsletters and get instant access to WSI TV Vault for free. So, we're going to be talking about a couple of companies that have either been really successful or have failed in the 2010s. Just kind of wrap up what's happened in the last decade and look forward into the next decade. So if you want to start us off with Borders.
Of course, yes. So Lea and I both did English in college, so the bookstores are very close to our hearts. But Borders Group was a company that, of course, produced books. It was a bookstore chain primarily. And their business plan was brick and mortar stores that created the first superstore. So they were kind of well known for that, and they had the first super bookstore. What happened to them in the 2010s is they started investing in larger locations. They did refurbishments to existing locations. They had new physical plants and an assortment of different media as opposed to just books. We had CDs, DVDs, and other things like gift merchandise. So it sounds like they're pretty diversified. They had a lot going on, especially in the past decade. So for them, the pros to that business plan was they had a niche market with low production costs and a very broad customer base. So they had all of that going for them, but there were some cons to the company. They had a dependency on a physical product because ebooks had not really taken off yet, or Borders didn't have their foothold there yet, and they had a lack of a digital presence.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's Borders. We're going to be doing this with a couple companies. We have 10 for you today, and you guys get to tell us or just decide for yourselves. You can comment on it below whether these companies are billionaire companies or bust companies. So Borders, you may already know, is a bust. It died out in 2011. So this one was a big failure.
Yes.
They stretched themselves too far when they started to look into larger locations and refurbishments. They started too late to try to get into the gift merchandising. Barnes & Noble had already done this, and at this point Amazon was starting to take over. And just in general, they went too far and didn't keep up with the digital trends. So Borders died out at the beginning of the last decade. So our next one... actually, we have a chart for this one. I forgot about that. It was really hard to find.
Yes, this one was buried deep in the internet.
So the thing is, when charts do die out, when companies do die out, their charts are basically erased from the databases in most places. So we had to really do some digging to find this. But we did, and it's kind of a sad image. So you can see that Borders was already in trouble starting in 2006, and it just kind of got worse leading up into 2011. And then right here you can see that price dipped to zero. So that's when they really tanked, which is really, really sad because I grew up going to Borders.
Bye-bye Borders.
So as we've said many times before, this trend that we see here is what you don't want when you are buying stocks.
The nosedive.
Yes. And usually they just drop low. This one went all the way to zero, and one of our favorite companies died out. So next up we have Amazon, and you definitely know this one.
Yes.
Everywhere these days. So I probably can go ahead and tell you this one is not a bust. This one opened in 1994, and it's still going today. Their products started as an online bookseller. So that's why we have this one right after Borders, because they kind of took over and replaced that market that Borders had a foothold in. They've since expanded to videos, homeware, decor, attire.
Everything.
Pretty much anything you can imagine you can find on Amazon. The business plan is a digital seller of a wide range of products with fast delivery services. And the great and clever thing about this is you can pay for constant service, which now includes the Prime membership with videos as well. But in that membership, you get faster shipping. So that's just a constant influx of money that Amazon's getting, even if you're not ordering things from them. So what happened in 2010s, the company grew to include a staggering number of products from food and office supplies to electronics and clothing and accessories. The company acquired a number of new assets. The biggest one was Whole Foods, I think. And they launched their online streaming service that kind of combats Disney Plus, Netflix, all of them.
It's right up there in the streaming wars, So
the pros to this business plan, it's a broad market that includes multiple different sectors. It's got a strong digital presence. It's an online business. It provides both goods and services according to the modern desires for goods and that quick, speedy service. The con is there's a need for vast storage space to allow for the quick delivery because you have to have stuff in stock all over the country. And there's that supply and demand issue. And then it's so diversified that there can be issues with that supply and demand and with the upkeep of a central image for the company.
For sure.
So this one is definitely a big
Of
one.
course, yes.
So if you were wondering how much Amazon is worth, it's $160 billion valued at the end of 2019. It's a big number.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that's just what it's valued at. Like they bring in huge amounts every single year, and this number is just skyrocketing. We have the chart for you guys. That is one of the most beautiful charts we've ever seen.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that statement. Yeah, that assessment. It's just steadily climbing upwards. You know, we were talking earlier that people were freaking out about the dip in Amazon earlier last year, and I think if you look really closely, it's this little dip right here. So, I mean, I think in that day, Jeff Bezos lost billions of dollars in his value because he has so much stake in this company. But again, Amazon, you'd really need a tank to hit this stock right now. So I don't think that we're going to be seeing any more dips from them anytime soon.
No, I think we're good. And it's definitely balanced out. It's still above that 40-week moving average.
For sure. Exactly.
Which is that blue line. So it's still looking strong. And you can see that it follows that green arrow all the way up.
Yep.
And this is for the last decade. So that's a really strong chart.
Yes.
Makes me wish that I was able to invest in the stock market back when it was.
Yeah, me too.
We were in diapers. So.
Yeah, too early.
So our next one up is Blockbuster. They specialize in video rentals. You probably remember this one. So
I
they're a
missed
brick
this
and
one.
mortar. I know. I had one right around the corner from my house.
So did I.
Everyone did. But this is a bricks and mortar business plan where they rented out videos from their actual stores. You go and pick up your video, take it home, watch it for the weekend, and return it. Funny statistic I found on this is they actually made most of their business from the late fees, not from the actual rentals.
Oh, that's interesting.
So what happened in 2010s, they had an increased competition from the online streaming network that was just beginning to expand. And they tried to move towards an online platform. It didn't quite make it there. The pros, it was low cost product and minimal service requirements. You just go and rent the video, go home. And then cons, it's dependency on a specific form of media intake, meaning CDs and videos, and that was changing to the online streaming.
Yeah.
So I don't even buy CDs anymore.
Oh, yeah.
So it was dependent on something that came and went.
Yes.
And then it had a physical store base, so there was little availability for the online market. So this one died out in 2014. It is a bust.
Unfortunately.
We found the chart for this one too.
Yikes. Doesn't that just hurt your heart a little bit?
It's just this straight trajectory down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And this one too, you could see was on its way out even in the 2000s, but it wasn't until the 2010s that it really started to tank. And you can see where it just died out, fizzled out in 2014. Yeah. So.
I'm saying we don't show you these charts to scare you, just so you know. It's kind of a hint that you can see, like, obviously you can see this chart's in trouble long before we get anywhere close to zero. You know, I think that's something that they don't stress a lot in the mainstream media, and that you have no idea when you look at Amazon and you're like, I don't know, could something happen tomorrow? Will it go to zero? You're going to know long beforehand, especially if you follow the tricks that we use here. You're never going to be in the dark and think tomorrow you're going to wake up and the chart's going to be at zero. It's usually going to have this steady decline and not like death drop overnight. Like, you're going to be aware of what's happening if you're well informed about it.
Yeah, and even this, you can see this is 2004 back here, and it's still pretty high up there, so there's actually a little bit of a rise here. So this would have been your sell point when you realize that it's in a downtrend.
I would say as soon as you cross this 40-week, though, that's when you're out, you know?
You're out. Yeah, so we would have been out up here, and then for several years it would have started declining, and we would have just watched it, but not been in it.
You would have been sitting at home safe with your money, so.
So we're showing you the ones that failed. We're going to talk a little bit about why they did so that you don't choose companies that make those same mistakes.
Exactly.
You are choosing stocks, and we're talking about the ones that succeed and why they did, so that if you want to start a business or invest in a business like this, you know you're picking the right one. So our next one is Netflix, which kind of was one of the biggest competitors for Blockbuster when it was still in the running. So this one started in 1997. Video streaming service, you probably have a subscription to this or one of its competitors. The business plan is an online subscription service to provide access to a broad library of television shows and films. In the 2010s, the online streaming took off, and Netflix began to funnel money into the creation of a production studio. They started creating their own original works, which actually looks like it's saving them now, as some of the other companies that had online streaming services are sputtering out because they don't have that much personal content. And there are so many new streaming services starting that companies are pulling their stuff from these secondary platforms.
Exactly, yes. And I mean, I think Netflix is at a bit of a disadvantage in the streaming wars when you're looking at companies like Disney and Amazon, because just for the fact that Disney is an entire own separate entity from its streaming service, Amazon could completely drop Prime Video and it would still keep chugging forward. But Netflix only has their content. They only have their streaming service. So I think it says a lot that this company is doing as amazing as it is with completely original content, especially when they have nothing else to rely on. They have no other platforms to run ads. They have no other way to advertise other than the traditional ways. But, I mean, it says a lot about the strength of this company, I think, for sure.
And I think one of the big things about that is that they took the initiative and got ahead of the trend.
Exactly.
Because they were the first to start coming out with those original services, those original pieces. And so they have several shows running. You've probably heard of The Crown, maybe The Witcher. There's a whole bunch of them.
Oh, yes.
And then they come out with constant movies. They come out with Christmas movies every year.
Oh, yes.
And so many people watch Netflix for those originals, not just for the other things that they provide.
Yes.
So pros, there's no physical product costs or supply and demand inconsistencies because you don't actually have to supply a product. And it's part of a quickly growing digital sector, so it's a part of the customer base that is growing faster than any other sector.
Exactly.
And then cons, it's dependency on an outside source for content, which they're trying to change, and a lot of competition within that sector.
Exactly.
But this one is doing great.
Yes.
We want to know how much this one's valued at. So we have the chart right here. So for an individual stock, you can see how much that's value has changed in the last few years. So again, we've got the whole decade here, and this is a really strong chart. I mean, nothing beats Amazon, but this is a really, really solid second.
Yeah. I mean, and they're both strong contenders coming into 2020, and of course we're going to be watching them no matter what. But again, you can see for yourself how great Netflix is doing for themselves right now.
Yeah, so great trend. And they're currently valued at $130 billion. They're almost up to $131 billion.
Wow.
So they're doing really well. And I'm really excited that they're doing well because I enjoy Netflix originals.
Me too, yes. The Golden Globes had quite a few, actually, the other night.
So they're changing what it means to watch online and what it means to be a production studio. So that's a really cool thing.
It is.
Our next one up is Uber. This is a ride-share service. And the business plan is independent drivers providing ride services to customers via an app. In the 2010s, Uber spread into the international market and underwent a major internal restructuring after a number of inconsistencies and safety concerns. Uber spread to include food delivery service and a more in-depth driver streaming process in this time period. Pros, it's part of an emerging market with low overhead costs and low upkeep costs. And it's a hands-off service managed by an app and by the drivers themselves. So if you're the owner of this company, you kind of get to push it off on everyone else. So cons, it is an oversaturated market. There's lots of competitors. And there is that safety concern with the screening of drivers.
Yes, which they've improved recently in past years. They did have where they didn't previously background check their drivers, but they have changed that. And I think it does say a lot that there is something going on. I think it's based in California that there is the dispute about whether the drivers are contractors or employees, because it does depend on the way that they're paid, the way that they're compensated, the way that they're treated within the company as employees.
Tips work, all of that.
Exactly. So their compensation for you, maybe if you were an Uber driver, unfortunately that would be bad for you if you were ruled to be a contractor, and because then you're considered not an employee and the company is not required to maybe take care of you so much. But if you are investing in Uber and they do win that legal battle, it will be interesting to see what happens with the stock with that in the future.
Yeah, and the thing to note with this is all of our other companies started in the 80s and 90s. Uber started in 2009, so it's a baby company.
It's still figuring itself out too. I think that's part of it, is that you're in the middle of the formation phase still. Like, Uber is very new in terms of the public market, and they're still getting used to what it means to be this huge, crazy huge company in the world. So, I mean, you're in the middle of when they're figuring it out, and I think because it's such a huge market already, it's just going to chug forward afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to keep an eye out on that for you. I'm really interested to see where because this chart just went public. Just had
very recently.
In May.
I believe so. Yes, it was this. It was the 2019. Yeah, it was this past year.
So this is its first year in the public market. So hopefully the 2020s will be the decade for Uber, and we'll see another rise like Amazon. But if that is going to happen, we'll let you know.
Yes.
But for now, this is a billionaire company. This is a great company. You can see the chart here. It did just start in May. So. It's a baby company.
Yes.
And Taylor, if you want to talk a little bit about this one and what it means to see this looks a little bit different from our normal chart.
Yes. Yeah. We were talking about it before we even sat down here to do this for you guys, that this chart is really spaced out. If you're just looking at it, these price points, you're probably not used to seeing them this far apart from each other. There's none of those lines that we're talking about, the moving averages. That's because this company is so new on the public market. It hasn't had 40 weeks yet. So it can't do that math yet to figure out where that line is going to be on that chart. So we can't unfortunately use that as a metric for this chart yet. But we can look at the company's specs. We can look at what they're doing in the market and how they're doing right now. And if you're looking at this in the span of, like, for example, the Amazon chart that we saw all the way from 1994, this is just going to be this much of like 1 year of the next chart as soon as Uber hits its groove. Yeah. So this little dip that you're seeing down here is probably going to be infinitesimal in the next couple years, assuming everything goes according to plan. But just keep that in mind when you see these charts like this.
Actually, I'm going to go back to our Netflix chart. So here we have, this is 10 years right here. So what you just saw on Uber's chart is this.
That much.
So we gotta wait for a little bit more time to pass. This is gonna be the long game with Uber.
Yes,
if they
Uber is the waiting
one of our
game.
Really good charts, it'll be several years in the future.
Yes.
But it is one to keep an eye on.
For sure.
And it is valued at a whopping $54 billion already. This company is barely a decade old.
Yes.
It's already valued in the billions. So that's really, really encouraging.
For sure.
So our next one is Sidecar. This is another ride-sharing delivery service. If you want to talk a little bit about this one.
Yes, I can. This one is kind of an Uber counterpart, if you will. The business plan was independent drivers that offer rides and deliveries through their rideshare application, which again sounds very similar to Uber and Lyft. In the 2010s, they fought to expand across the United States amidst the increasing competition that we've already talked about. And taxi transport is slowly becoming less and less something that people are using. So as this is happening, this change is happening, Sidecar expanded its mission into this year, deploying its fleet of on-demand drivers to make the same-day deliveries of food, groceries, and packages. So the things they had going for them, again, it was an emerging market. They were on the cusp of it as it was taking off, and they had no product costs outside of the app's upkeep. But again, they did have really insurmountable obstacles in that they had high competition, and it requires lots of permits and approval required to get used to the services in different states.
Yeah, so this one was a short stint of the company. It rose in 2011, so right after Uber. So they got the same idea.
Yes.
And then it died out in 2015 because it just simply couldn't keep up. So we couldn't find the chart for this one because it didn't ever actually make it to the public sphere.
Yes.
We have some stats for you on this. They raised $35 million in 5 rounds of funding. But Uber and Lyft at the same time raised $6.61 billion and $1.26 billion respectively. So you can see that they just didn't have the backing. And Uber and Lyft operate all over the country, and now Uber is international. But with Sidecar, they never made it past Los Angeles, Long Beach, and a couple other locations. They were trying to expand to the entire United States, but they had to get approval for that, and they just never made it there. So, good idea. Too much competition.
Yeah. A little behind the curve.
Yeah. So another one that we've got for you is Sports Authority. I used to shop here growing up.
Yes, I think we all did.
Yeah. So the product is sports equipment and attire. The business plan was a wide range of sports products provided in a brick and mortar store. They were all over the U.S. I think there were about 500 stores at their prime. So they're a big company.
Yes.
What happened in 2010's participation in sports, particularly for children, started to drop. And Sports Authority was forced to restructure their stores and merchandise. They downsized to make up for the losses in the overall market. The pros of this company is it's a broad market with a history of success, and it's diversified within a specific sector because they're not just catering to soccer or to baseball. They're catering to all sports. They had fishing gear, they had clothing, they had runner's gear, they had everything you can imagine.
Yeah.
Cons, it's dependency on a brick and mortar model, and it's based in a sector that is currently shifting and has continued to shift since this company died out in 2016. So this one is a bust. They did try to downsize, and again, we couldn't find the chart for this one, but we have some more information for you on it. They couldn't keep up with the competition from other brick and mortar stores. Dick's Sporting Goods is the big one. And they were failing to offer the high-end experience compared to those other stores. So Sports Authority slowly turned into the discount version of Sporting Goods. And then they didn't have enough of an online presence, so that competition just completely beat them out. They filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in early March of 2016, with debts topping $1 billion and pre-tax losses at $156 million.
Wow.
So really big losses.
Yes.
They wanted to close 140 of the 450 stores that were existing then at the beginning of 2016, but then by the end of the year, they cut their losses and had to admit that they were closing down because they couldn't find a buyer to help them out of the mess. So this one was a bit of a failure, and it was replaced pretty directly by Lululemon. If you've heard of this brand, they are part of the athleisure craze.
The whole
that has
trend.
been happening. So this company actually started before the craze caught on. It started in 1998, and it's still going strong today. So they provide athletic clothing and athleisure wear, provision of a wide range of athletic and athleisure clothing and accessories in brick and mortar and online stores is their business plan. And what happened in the 2010s, they expanded their online presence to include a shopping app in addition to the website that was already up and running. They expanded to global markets with a total of 440 stores open worldwide, so that's a pretty big number. And then in addition to that, their website and app are available worldwide, so they have huge international presence. They worked to broaden their customer base with this success and included menswear, which they didn't previously have. Pros, their dominance in an emerging market of athleisure, and it's a niche space with potential for more growth, which they've already demonstrated by expanding to males. Their con is they're dependent on trends in the retail market, and it is a limited customer base. But this one is going strong.
Yes.
So here's the chart for this one. We've shown this one before because I'm really a fan of this chart, especially in the last couple of years. Starting, I think early 2017 is when I was ready to jump on this one. But if you'd gotten in at the beginning of the decade, you would have been flying high right now. So it is a little bit more wobbly than the other charts, but we have this strong upward motion, especially, like I said, 2017 on, we're looking amazing right here. Especially when there's been so much fear in the retail market.
Yes.
This is proof that we're fine.
Yeah.
So this one is valued at $29 billion.
Wow.
So again, big numbers.
Almost 30. They're almost up there.
Yeah, so they're doing really well. And then our next one is Vine. If you want to talk about this one.
Yes, Vine is something that recently came out. I want to say it was very recent in the 2010s. So the product is that it's a video creation and sharing app. So this is something that you never saw a physical product for, but their business plan was they were actually purchased by Twitter for $3 million, and it was created with the purpose of allowing people to create and share brief 6-second videos with their friends, which probably sounds really crazy if you've never used it, but I promise it worked. In the 2010s, the app saw unprecedented success as the users had a creative challenge within the 6-second limit of the videos. So while you think it may limit creativity on online platforms, it actually increased the way that people were interacting with this app. The pros is that they had an increasingly popular digital market, and it was very low maintenance because it was, again, just a digital product, and there were very few overhead costs. But the cons is that they were reliant on a constantly shifting market and customer base because it was aimed at younger kids, tweens, very young adults, and of course those people can't really be trusted when it comes to trends. When you're looking into companies, they'll be on and off in 10 seconds. So it was something that probably ultimately contributed to Vine's demise.
Yeah, so Vine existed from 2012 to 2017. So again, a very brief stint, but it did go completely and totally viral and off the rails and exceeded expectations when it first came out. It was simply supposed to be an extension of Twitter where you could share videos with your friends. Specifically, it was supposed to be friends and family members just showing little videos instead of sharing pictures. But instead, people took it, especially the youth, took it as a creative challenge to create these funny and wacky videos, make jokes and all of that, and then get as many likes and follows and all of that as possible. And a lot of the videos became kind of standards of jokes in our generation and below. And they still circulate on the internet even though Vine doesn't exist. So for a brief time, this was a hugely successful venture.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
But it died out because it's based in a market that's all about instant gratification and very, very quick pace.
Low attention spans.
Low attention spans. So that followed through with this being a short-lived business.
Short-lived, yes.
So this was a bit of a bust. And here, since it didn't have its own individual chart, I have Twitter's chart because it was owned by Twitter. And you can see that when the company did start to fall apart, it had some dire effects on Twitter. So Twitter had a pretty strong chart before this, but you can see that right when Vine started to fall apart, there was a really, really sharp decline that I have marked here with this arrow in Twitter's chart. So 2015, there started to be trouble for Vine, and then it died out in 2017. You can see that Twitter hits its all-time low right here in 2017. So, yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah, and then our next one is Alphabet Inc., previously known as Google. So this product's internet search software and computer software services. Their business plan is to provide internet and computer software worldwide. And what happened in 2010s is the company rebranded under the umbrella of Alphabet, and previously just Google. And they began the process of expanding to create physical technologies, including tablets, computers, phones, and more, in addition to revamping their entire search engine service.
Yes, yeah.
So pros of this company, it's part of a dominant market with potential for future growth. There's little startup costs with the digital aspect of things, and there's lots of capability for adaptation and updates, which is what we're looking at just in the tech sphere in general, which is why on this show specifically we're so pro tech.
Yes, yeah.
So cons is there is the need to constantly change the business plan and update the software. This is never something that you can set off and just let it go. You have to constantly
It's got to
be
be updated, yeah.
That goes again with that instant gratification and short attention span. Alphabet has been able to keep up with it though.
Yes.
So there's also, it's very competitive marketing and it's just a hard sector to break into.
Yes.
But once you're in it, you can be hugely successful. And Alphabet definitely has. So it started in 1998 and it's still around today. And then there it is, Billionaire service. Here's our chart if you want to talk a little bit about it, Taylor.
Yes, yeah. I mean, like, just like we were saying, this one looks just like Amazon and Netflix that we were talking about. It's just a steady march upwards, you know, ever since we got 2010 down here in the bottom corner, and it's kind of just not even flinched the entire way up for the rest of that decade. So as Google broke into, they were just a search engine, and then they started breaking into markets where Apple and Microsoft were kind of owning it. And of course, you know that Apple and Microsoft are the two companies that have broke trillion-dollar valuations. So that's saying a lot that Google can hold a torch to those two. But again, once they took over, they literally haven't slowed down since.
Yeah, so just to look at that number in case you can't see it, it's at $1,339.39 per share right now.
One share is $1,300.
So with that number for a single share, it may not come as that much of a surprise that it's valued at $762 billion. So that's the biggest company that we have in this episode today. That's a lot. That's almost officially just a constant $1 trillion base for this company.
Yeah.
And their valuation is at over $1 trillion, but their actual net worth right now is almost at $1 trillion. That's huge.
That is crazy.
So I showed this number to Taylor and her eyes popped. So
yeah, they did funny. A little bit.
So those are our companies. We're going to talk a little bit about why some of them failed. So we had Borders, Blockbuster, Sidecar, Sports Authority, and Vine are our failures. Some of the reasons why they failed is dependence on the brick and mortar sales model, the inability to adapt to digitization, a narrowing business model, lacking marketing campaigns, limited customer bases, a product without the potential for updating or growth. I think this was a big one for Vine because they did one thing and one thing only, and once it had been done, everyone was tired of it.
Yes.
And then overextension, where they tried too much.
Too soon.
Borders. So they tried to expand too much and fell apart. And then on the other side of the coin, we had why some of them succeeded.
Yes, so we do have, of course, the ones that we mentioned. We have Amazon, Netflix, Uber, Lululemon, and Alphabet. So the reason that we're saying that they've succeeded so astronomically in comparison to their competitors is they, for the most part, all had a diverse business plan, little to no overhead costs, no dependence on a singular physical product, which can, if that product tanks, everything tanks. So they were able to diversify effectively. They had effective marketing on their side, the ability to update whatever products they have, whether they were digital or not. Having an online or digital presence in the first place, being able to renovate that as things are changing and as the attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. Versatility, having a broad customer base, and having a successful business. The first thing that we say, we talk about this a lot in the book, is you need to satisfy a want or a need in society. You can't just come up with an idea and say, here, there's my product. You need someone that's going to buy it for sure. So you can't have a singular dependence on something that you think exists. It needs to be an actual hole that you're filling. And you can't rely on traditional brick and mortar sales models because as we're coming into the future, it's not going to last. I think we can see that now. That's the trend. You have to put a service over a product sometimes, especially when it comes to changing and updating and moving forward with the times. And having an international presence is going to be a huge factor as we're coming into the new year, especially into the new decade. With globalization and the way that things are going, you have to be able to diversify outside of the United States. So I think those are the big ones that we were talking about today.
Yeah. So, and then we have one final slide. Whether you're looking to invest in some of these companies or if you want to start your own business, these are just some things that you should look for. Either ask yourself, is my business plan doing this? Or is this company that I'm looking at investing in doing this? So you need the potential for growth and diversification. You need a cohesive business plan. You need to fulfill that need or want in society. That's a big one. This should be the first question you ask yourself is, what want or need am I fulfilling? Preferably a need, because then even in bad times, you're going to be getting sales.
You still have business, yes.
Low startup costs is ideal. It needs to be a concept that's easily adapted and updated according to changing times, because with the companies that we saw fail, one of the biggest things that caused them to fail is that they didn't change. Either they weren't able to go digital, or they weren't able to update to something new to surprise people. But it needs to be able to be updated. You need effective and diverse marketing. People undervalue marketing. This was one of Sidecar's big failures, is they didn't effectively market, and therefore they were lost in the shuffle with Uber and Lyft, who did market successfully. You need a broad customer base, but not too broad. Because if you start with just everybody needs this, you might get swallowed up in the masses. But with that specific customer base, you need the potential for it to grow. And then you need to pick sectors with high success and low competition, or with a clear formula of dominating that competition that exists. And then you need diversity in products, locations, and different sectors. So this is really good just if you're investing in general. You need to invest in multiple sectors. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly, yeah.
And you need ease of purchase for the customer. This is something that I've been reading up a lot about. If customers have difficulty with your website or with your service in store, they'll walk away. They don't want the hassle. So, and then that online presence is key.
Yes.
So, have a website.
Yes, make it easy to use.
But if you can find a company that has all of these things, or if you can start up a company that checks all these boxes, you're going to be good to go. And again, we showed you some really strong charts today. Don't try to invest in the ones that failed.
Please don't.
But our successful ones, we have Amazon, Netflix, Uber, Lululemon, and Alphabet are some really strong companies to look at for just kind of a basis of what you should be looking for in a chart and in a company. So
yes, that's a good place to start for sure.
Yeah, so I think that's all we have for you guys today. I had a lot of fun researching this, and I'm really excited to see what happens in 2020s. So
yeah, me too.
Can't believe I just said 2020.
I know. It's still surreal, but
I know. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Taylor.
Of course.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching the latest episode of WSI TV. Be sure to visit WSITV.com, where you can subscribe for free with no contract and gain instant access to the secrets of self-made millionaires via the WSI TV Vault. So go ahead and claim this gift for free now at WSITV.com.